What happens when a lost soul meets another lost soul? In that moment, magic can occur, or perhaps something profoundly influential. Our story begins on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, where a little girl named Lily, alone and destitute, weeps quietly by the roadside. A heart-wrenching sight that would become the turning point in her life. But there, watching from the shadows, was a stray dog named Max, who, unlike anyone around, sensed the enormity of her heartbreak. Isn't it fascinating how sometimes the most significant connections arise in the most unexpected circumstances? You see, Max wasn't just any dog. He was a wanderer, carrying the heavy burden of his own abandonment. He had been left behind, tenaciously clinging to the hope of finding warmth, love, and somewhere to belong. Ironically, at that moment on the roadside, he found himself harboring a connection, a shared understanding that would bind them both in ways the world had yet to fathom. The scene was draped in a heavy silence, pierced only by the soft sound of Lily's tears falling like raindrops onto the pavement. It was as if the world had paused just for them, holding its breath waiting to see what would unfold. Max's nostrils flared, troubleshooting the damp air, as he instinctively knew it was time for him to act. With cautious optimism, he pranced toward her, each step a challenge against the odds of uncertainty. Dogs have an uncanny ability to sense emotional states. In numerous studies, it has been shown that canines can perceive fear, sadness, and joy with startling accuracy. Their empathetic skills enable them to react in ways that foster healing and connection. As Max approached her, he embodied that instinct, mirroring the vulnerability that Lily wore like a thin film of glass, ready to shatter at any moment. When Max first laid his brown eyes upon Lily, they communicated an unconditional message, a wordless empathy that in many ways transcended language. As he gently nudged his head against her shaking hand, he offered not only the warmth of his fur, but also a powerful reminder that she wasn't alone, that she was indeed worthy of love and connection. Lily hesitated, initially taken aback by the unexpected company, but as she looked into Max's pleading eyes, a flicker of hope ignited within her. She wanted to believe this creature was as lost as she was, yet possessing a brightness that she found difficult to grasp. Here, they were threading together, two souls adrift, one clawing for connection, and the other resilient enough to offer it without expectation. Psychologists often speak of a phenomenon called emotional contagion, the process through which one person's emotions can influence and amplify those of another. In this case, it was as though Max transmitted his gentle spirit directly to Lily, hastily absorbing her sorrows like unyielding shadows retreating from dawn's first light. Just like that, in a world that too often feels barren of empathy, the spark of connection blossomed into something pure. But the fantasy began to dissolve as reality settled in. Lily's tears hadn't merely come from a fleeting moment of pain. They were the manifestation of deeper wounds, ones that clawed at her soul. She had been abandoned, left in a bitter confrontation with loneliness and despair, feeling like an unlit candle in a storm of raging winds. There was an aching pang in her heart. Abandonment echoed louder than any child's laughter, causing an uncertainty that loomed like an ominous cloud. Max, without knowing it, became the glue in this fractured moment. As she tentatively wrapped her arms around him, her heart began to mend, stitch by stitch, spark by spark. The warmth of his fur was electric, almost a catalyst, and unbeknownst to them both, they had begun to rewrite their narratives. Time unfolded, weaving in and out like the ticking of a clock. The two spent their afternoons on deserted playgrounds, creating imprints of laughter where despair had once dug trenches. As Lily threw a tennis ball against the backdrop of fading sunlight, Max sped off like a bullet train, returning it only to drop it with a proud wag of his tail. They were defining happiness in fragments, anchoring themselves in the present moment, deciding their pasts didn't have to dictate their futures. During one of those afternoons, while the world around them bustled with life, an ordinary day tiptoed toward the extraordinary. A woman approached, her hair tousled by the wind, and a furrowed brow painting the complexities of her journey. Rachel, the owner of Max, was searching for the four-legged companion she had reluctantly surrendered. Her heart was heavy, weighed down by guilt that trailed her like an uninvited shadow. It was a decision forced upon her by circumstances that had seemed entirely out of her control, and she had believed giving Max away was the only option left to provide him with a better life. But likable magnets, their fates were tangled in an intricate web of emotions, and as Rachel spotted them, an avalanche of feelings collided within her: relief, regret, sorrow, but profound longing to reclaim what was lost. At that moment, it wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a confluence of multiple narratives racing through time and space, each anchored in loss, yet remarkably interdependent. Rachel's heart dropped as she witnessed her beloved puppy snuggled against the very child she had been searching for. Her brow creasing, brimming not just with concern, but also with memories of the bond they once shared. Unexpectedly, the little girl lifted her face toward the woman, eyes wide with recognition and curiosity. It was a moment pregnant with potential. Should they allow it to blossom, it might transform not only their lives, but would also extend to the creature that had bound them in the first place. The emotional landscape began to shift, their unpolished reality coming to a head. Rachel stepped toward them, cautiously, hesitant of the love she longed to reclaim, yet deeply aware of the girl whose heart Max had wrapped around his furry little paws. Rachel called softly, her voice a trembling whisper. In that singular sound laden with nostalgia, every word spiraled into a reconnection that glimmered with possibilities. Max shifted, as if attuned to the voice that had guided him through the formative years of his doggy life. He offered a soft whimper, torn between the love he'd come to cultivate with Lily and the bond that had initially solidified his existence. Lily looked up at Rachel, her innocence present but mixed with an abiding awareness. A hint of realization washed over her. In social psychology, this twist reflected a classic case of attachment theory. Both Earls were clinging to Max for different reasons, yet each sought comfort from the same void life had presented them with. Rachel dropped to her knees, a pool of sorrow gathering at her feet. "I never wanted to be away from you, buddy," she murmured, puffed with sputtering breaths. In her eyes, the reflections of pain and love touched the sacred ground, a testament to the scars she bore and the intentions that now rested in a precarious balance. All parties stood suspended in an emotional purgatory, unsure of how to proceed. At that moment, it became more than just a choice of who would eventually keep Max. Together they shared an understanding. The wounded heart often craves not just resolution, but also closure. In that crucial juncture, Rachel reached across the chasm of uncertainty. She turned toward Lily, vulnerability softening her features, as if she had shifted from an adversarial being into an empathetic part of the tableau before her. She asked, her voice cracking as she offered a hesitant smile. Lily's heart raced, every pulse echoing with the urgency of the moment, dilemma skirting the edges of hope and fear. She nodded, still holding Max close, the animal caught in a paradox that mirrored her own feelings. As Rachel extended her hand, soft and tentative, the very air hummed with anticipation. Max was at the center of it all, a living testament to resilience, learning to weave together the lives of those who had once existed apart. He took a tentative step toward Rachel, the silent question drifting through the atmosphere. Could he trust again? The tendrils of their collective wounds hung heavy yet paradoxically felt electrifying. Tension crackled between them, an invisible bridge of connection linking their stories, interwoven in ways they had yet to realize, each individual thread adding to the intricate tapestry of healing. Max paused for a brief moment, and in that instance, he symbolized the answer they all craved, exposing the euphoric weight of acceptance as he flopped against Rachel's outstretched hand. Suddenly, the bittersweet nature of their stories collided like thunder, a potential shift that promised renewal, yet also loomed with uncertainty. Would Lily's heart shatter? Would Rachel be able to reclaim what once felt like her whole world? And at the center of this precipice stood Max, blissfully embodying an instinctual capability to accept love, despite the scars etched on his soul. But life is rarely as simple as we wish it to be, and Max, with every ounce of his fur-lined heart, felt the echoes of affection beckoning him toward both past and present. In that moment, the question loomed larger than life itself. Could two mothers coexist in a world of love and heartbreak, offering warmth in experiences that had long since left them abandoned? As the sun slid toward the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and lavender, Max stood tall, ready to embrace the complexities of life before him. Would this reunion strand them all together, weaving an intricate tapestry of emotions? Or would it fray the rickety threads they fought to hold? The answer lingered in the air, hanging like the final note of a symphony, suspended in melody before it commits to silence, a moment frozen in time, an invitation to explore the unfolding of their interconnected journey. In that electric pause, they stood on the edge of a burgeoning bond, where love and heartbreak could coexist as one, exhaling a gentle and perhaps entirely unexpected promise of new beginnings. Would trust blossom anew, or would the weight of longing prove far too heavy for any of them to bear? And as darkness enveloped them, one truth remained. The journey of healing had only begun. The clashing of souls and hearts, guided by an unexpected hero named Max, promised a path that none of them could foresee. Would they step forward, hand in paw, into the wild unknown of what lay ahead? Only time would tell. What happens when lives, once drifting alone, suddenly converge on a moment vast with possibilities? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows and shimmering colors across the sky, Max, the dog who had brought two worlds together, stood trembling between a past filled with abandonment and a future wrapped in profound uncertainty. Lily, the girl who had embraced his warmth in her depths of sorrow, grasped Max tightly, feeling the palpable tension in the air. Rachel, a woman who had once loved Max fiercely, knelt before them, stricken by an emotion storm, each wave threatening to pull her under. The atmosphere buzzed with tension, an unspoken question hummed like static, awaiting resolution. Could they blend their lives together in the face of all their different pain? At that very moment, Max shifted, a subtle movement, yet one thick with meaning. He turned to face Lily, leaning into her for comfort, while simultaneously glancing at Rachel. Dogs have an extraordinary ability to pick up on human emotions, and Max felt the emotional currents swirling around him. It was a duality of existence, caught in the crossfire between loyalty and newfound affection. Instinctually, he sought solace in both of them, merging their fears and hopes in a transcendent bond. This dynamic moment encapsulated a profound psychological principle known as attachment theory, illustrating how emotional connections often determine relationships. Here stood two broken pieces, with a resilient soul bridging the gap, each of them clutching to their vulnerabilities as they reached toward one another for strength. Rachel, astonished by the warmth of the moment, felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crack. The reality of her choices flooded back in vivid color, the memories of her life with Max, filled with laughter, adventure, and love. But the burden of regret weighed heavy on her. How had she ended up here, kneeling before a girl who had inherited the joys and pains of that once inseparable bond? Lily, sensing Rachel's struggle, gazed into the depths of her eyes. In her trusting heart, she understood that this woman held a narrative that intertwined with her own. She was not just battling for Max's affection. She was navigating her own ocean of emotions, battling shame, guilt, and a yearning for reconnection. What if they could share him? What if this could become a journey toward healing rather than a battle for possession? As if answering the question, Max took a few hesitant steps toward Rachel, his tail wagging slowly, a sign of tentative trust. In the realm of psychology, this anchoring moment symbolized the concept of co-regulation in relationships, where individuals mirror and adapt to one another's emotional states, allowing for mutual growth. Here was Max, an embodiment of forgiveness, extending a paw across the divide. Just as everyone held their breath, Rachel reached out, her fingers brushing against Max's fur, and an electrifying spark ignited in the air, echoing the warmth of connection. Behind that charged moment loomed the question of boundaries. Would the girl who had found solace in this creature allow the old memories to resurface in a new light? In that intimate space where trust hung precariously, Lily spoke, her voice steady and imbued with the wisdom that sometimes comes from witnessing profound pain. The statement was innocent yet layered with emotional depth, advocating unity over division, compassion over conflict. Tears brimmed in Rachel's eyes. It felt like a foreign wave washing over her, softening the edges of her regrets. "You'd really share?" Her vulnerability dangled like fragile wisdom, waiting for an answer. The ghost of her past clung to her, trying to shape the narrative of this encounter, but Lily's youthful bravado shimmered like a beacon. "Yes," was all Lily said, yet it echoed with the fervor of 100 lifetimes. In that moment, they realized that their histories could bleed into something new, an amalgamation of shared loss and rebirth. It wasn't merely about Max anymore. It had transformed into a courageous confrontation of emotions, threaded through laughter, pain, and hope. As they navigated this renewed dynamic, bringing Max along for the ride, every action became a celebration of change. Max became a symbol of resilience, forcing them to recognize the beauty and vulnerability and the strength hidden within their fears. Time unrolled gently as they collectively explored parks, trails, and sunsets, each wandering adventure redefined by the tangible love that blossomed between the three of them. Max initiated a kind of therapy, not through words, but through his boundless joy, pulling them deeper into their shared journey as they healed alongside him. As days turned into weeks, the bonds were solidified in ways no one could have anticipated. Rachel began to embrace her role as a guiding figure in Lily's life, mentoring her through challenges, laughter, and the beautiful messiness that comes with healing. In turn, Lily became a catalyst for Rachel, showing her that joy could seep back into her existence despite the scars of her past. Each ecstatic romp with Max, shared over laughter and compassion, unveiled the strength in vulnerability, allowing them to confront both their grief and newfound joy. But life can often throw an unexpected wrench into even the best-laid plans. Changed trajectories lurked behind the horizon. One fateful day, during a stroll down a wooded path, a sudden explosion of noise shattered their newfound tranquility. A truck roared down the gravel road, its tires screeching against the gravel as it swung around the bend, revealing its menacing glint of metal. In the blink of an eye, chaos erupted. Max leaped, sensing the threat before any human could respond. He darted onto the road, instinctively thrusting himself in front of Lily, a natural protector's response, driven by instinct more than conscious thought. In a split second laden with tension, time slowed. Max's body propelled forward as the truck careened dangerously close, and everything spiraled into a vortex of fear and desperation. Rachel screamed, voice cracking like glass. The rawness of that moment bared witness not only to the love they had shared, but also to the sheer terror of potential loss. Would they survive this together? And what would they do if they lost their tether in that tumultuous instant? Both Lily and Rachel rushed forward, instinctively following Max onto the road. The frantic urge to protect felt almost primal, echoing through the evolutionary heartbeat of their beings. It was as if they were all entwined in a single thread of hope, willing to sacrifice what little remained for the love of one another. In that precarious heartbeat, every shared moment, every emotion that had brought them here, crystallized into something monumental. But like an ominous storm on the horizon, uncertainty loomed. It wasn't as simple as wishing for a fairy tale ending. The world around them transformed. The truck veered unexpectedly, the driver slamming on the brakes, tires screeching like a banshee in the night. In that shocking instant, everything hung suspended. Max's fierce loyalty, a blend of bravery and fear, shone like a beacon against the backdrop of the chaos. The screech of brakes cut through the air, and silence dropped like a hammer, creating pockets of uncertainty for Rachel and Lily. Would they become witnesses to tragedy? All-consuming panic rippled through the air. Time clashed with reality, where sorrow collided with hope, a delicate balance that felt as if it could tip in any given direction. Would this be the moment the fabric of their joy unraveled? Would fear obliterate the beauty of their newly found family? In a painfully slow crescendo, the truck came to a halt mere inches from where Max had positioned himself as a shield, the driver's eyes wide with shock. Gasps echoed in the stillness. The universe seemed to hold its breath, and then, as if released from a spell, Max nudged forward, tail wagging despite the near miss, his instincts undeterred by fear. Miraculously, he stepped back, seeking the comfort of both Lily and Rachel, standing proudly amidst the chaos, having made a poignant choice. As they surrounded him, Lily knelt down, heart pounding, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You're—" she stammered, clinging to him fiercely, like he was their last tether to the universe. The rush of relief flooded both Rachel and Lily as they realized that they had witnessed bravery amidst the chaos. A reminder that love and loyalty can pierce through even the darkest moments. Max, their precious purveyor of hope, had chosen to protect against the storm, demonstrating that the most profound connections often reside in the soup of our shared experiences. As the sun began to range deep into twilight, they found solace in one another, embracing the beauty of their complicated existence. Every shared heartbeat seemed a testament to their existence together, reflecting the resilience rooted in their shared vulnerabilities. Max had reminded them of vital truths about connection and courage, anchoring them through storms they never could have envisioned. They were a collective force bound by a tapestry of love, pain, understanding, and ultimately hope. For as they walked forward, side by side, into the unknown, the echoes of their journey rippled through time. They learned to carry their burdens in a newfound light. They had confronted something immense, a collision of fate, love, and connection that allowed them to blend their stories into something richer than they could have imagined. Together, they stepped forward into the future, which stretched out before them like an unwritten chapter waiting to be filled. Remarkably, they had gained not just a dog, but a journey, a lifetime's worth of shared moments waiting to unfold, filled with laughter, compassion, and an unbreakable bond that was forged in the crucible of experience. And as they embraced the spirals of their lives intertwining, it beckoned a question. When one learns to walk, as they had over the past months, can they find their way back to the light even amidst the fuel of uncertainty? Though the answer remained unanswered, they ventured forward, emboldened by love, drenched in life's beautiful messiness, ready to discover the myriad paths that awaited them on their journey of healing and connection. And somewhere in the shadows, a supernatural force, the unyielding thread of connection, whispered they would always find their way back to one another. For their hearts had found a way to weave together through the tapestry of life, where pain and joy coexist in endless harmony. What if the deepest bond of trust and loyalty could sprout in the unlikeliest of places, amidst tears, despair, and the remnants of heartbreak? Imagine, if you will, a stray dog named Max, his coat ruffled by the whispers of the wind, crossing paths with the lost soul of a girl named Lily, whose despair hung heavy in the air like a storm about to break. Their meeting, unexpected and raw, was just the beginning of a story that would ripple through time, unraveling layers of human emotion in ways no one could have anticipated. The moment Max laid his eyes on Lily, sitting forlorn and crying by the roadside, something fundamental shifted within him. It was an instinct not merely to survive, but to connect. Stray dogs are often products of their environments, evolving to navigate a world that can be harsh and unforgiving. Yet, within that hardened shell lies the ability to sense deeper emotions, a psychological phenomenon often seen in canines, a keen capability to empathize with human pain. As he approached Lily, Max instinctively mirrored her vulnerability. He could sense her fear, her loneliness, as palpable as the scent of rain in the air. Separation anxiety, a common affliction in both dogs and humans, created a bridge between their hearts, one created by abandonment and longing for a connection that felt within reach, yet so far away. It was as if fate had interwoven their destinies in that fleeting moment, stitching together the strands of shared hope. She whispered, her voice catching like a thread in a snarl. With trembling hands, she reached for him, the warmth of his fur offering a much-needed comfort amidst her swirling turmoil. In that exchange, Max responded not just as a dog, but as a guardian of her fractured spirit. Without understanding why, she felt a flicker of safety, an instinct to hold him close. This forging of connection opened a corridor of emotions that both parties had kept barricaded for far too long. It's a psychological truth that when individuals experience sadness, it often leaves them in a state of disconnection, alienated from the self and the world. But Max, unaware of his own power, bridged that chasm in an astonishing display of animal instinct and empathy. His presence was more than just a balm. It was an awakening to healing, a testament to the power of companionship in the face of despair. And then the story turned. Within the span of mere hours, Max transformed from a lonely stray into a beacon of hope for Lily. They shared adventures that spooled out across the landscape, a neighborhood park filled with sun-speckled laughter, a vacant field where he chased after fallen leaves, joy and freedom erupting in wide, bounding leaps. Each moment Lily spent with him reinforced the idea that connection, even amidst darkness, can blossom into something beautiful. But as the days turned into weeks, the wheels of fate began to spin in unexpected directions. The park became their sanctuary, an unspoken pact of trust and loyalty woven into their daily rituals. They were not just two lost souls navigating life's jagged edges. They were now partners in healing, each drawing strength from the other. This growing bond, painted in vivid strokes of companionship, was tested one fateful afternoon. As they played near the road, oblivious to the world beyond their little bubble, the distant rumble of an approaching vehicle shattered the serenity of their shared moment. A truck barreled down the road, an unwelcome interloper in their sanctuary, its engine growling like a predator stalking its prey. Max's instincts kicked in as if he were a guardian angel sent to shield Lily from the storm. He darted toward the road, eyes wide with a primal mix of loyalty and fear. Everything occurred in a heartbeat, yet it felt like an eternity. The truck sped closer, time slowed, and the danger loomed large, thick with tension. Lily's heart pounded as she screamed, a visceral cry that echoed through the air. Panic surged through her veins, wrapping around her like chains as she rushed forward. Time hung suspended as both the dog and the girl faced a moment pregnant with uncertainty. Would the faith forged in love withstand the brutal collision of fate and reality? As the truck screeched to a halt, its driver wide-eyed in shock, Max leaped forward, but not as a mere dog. He was a warrior draped in fur, fiercely protectively charged by the love that had sprung from their connection. Just as quickly, he diverted his path, dancing away into safety, narrowly escaping what could have been a tragic end. Relief surged through Lily, but immeasurable joy flooding her chest as she knelt down next to Max, wrapping her arms around him as tears streamed down her face. "You did it." Her voice trembled, vibrant with gratitude. In that course of time, they had danced on the precipice of loss, only to hold each other tightly as their hearts beat in unison, proof that love conquers even the gravest moments of despair. But as they came to understand their incredible connection, what was perhaps more profound was how they had stumbled upon this sanctuary for healing. Max did not just rescue Lily, he provided her with an anchor in a stormy sea of emotions, allowing her to navigate her grief and longing for belonging. There was something remarkable about the bond they shared, for psychology shows that companionship can nurture resilience, fueling an individual's ability to cope with life's relentless challenges. As time continued its relentless march, events unfolded that neither could have predicted. Enter Rachel, Max's previous owner, unknowingly intertwined in the tapestry of their story. She had given Max up, believing it was the best decision for his future. But the absence of his boundless joy had crept into her life, like shadowy tendrils of regret. A realization began gnawing at her insides. Days passed in a haze as she wondered what her life would look like if she hadn't relinquished him. The moment Rachel picked up on Max's familiar bark echoing from the park, curiosity bloomed into an urgent need. She had to see it for herself. As she approached the laughter-filled space, the sight crystallized into clarity. The stray dog she had thought lost had not only survived but had thrived. There he was, bounding through the grass, laughter coursing through his barks, a testament to resilience. But that sight opened a deep chasm of emotion within Rachel, the kind of betrayal that haunts a person's conscience. It was a question she hadn't dared ask herself until now. Watching Lily embrace him, those youthful hands tangling in his fur, each laugh knitting them into a tapestry of joy, hurt her more than she could have anticipated. A storm brewed within her, fear of losing him again, regret for past decisions, and hope that perhaps he still had space for her in his heart. As Rachel stepped closer, another layer of their intertwined narrative threatened to unfurl. In that moment, as Lily looked up and locked eyes with Rachel, the world around them seemed to pivot. It became undeniable. They were now tangled in a web of shared love, anchored in mutual understanding, yet threatened by the fear of separation. Rachel called, her voice wavering as Lily regarded her, confusion flecking her features. The girl's grip around Max loomed tight, feeling suddenly possessive of their precious connection. Lily replied, her voice steady, yet laced with an undercurrent of protectiveness that was palpable. Rachel's heart ached. She was not here to take him away. She only wanted to share the warmth that resided in that bond. The rawness of her voice cracked a little, a layer of vulnerability surfacing that she rarely allowed to be visible. Suddenly, it was as if the universe held its breath. This meeting of past and present carried with it the weight of their separate histories. Rachel, burdened by the ghost of her decision, and Lily, fiercely protective of the love she found nestled within Max's embrace. In a curious twist of fate rife with emotional complexity, Max inadvertently bridged the fractured relationship between the two women. Could he navigate the emotional currents that would define their futures? Research in social psychology has long noted how human bonds, even in trauma or joy, often affect the capacity to forgive and rebuild. But would this reunion stand as a testament to healing? Or would it unravel the tenuous fabric they had created? Life's tangled canvas often reshapes itself in ways we cannot predict, and here, weaving hope, pain, and the potential for connection hung delicately in the air among them. Time stretched as they all stood, vulnerable yet resolute, caught in the uncertainty of imminent change. Max seemed to sense that this moment was pivotal. He shifted between the two women, embodying an essence they had yet to grasp. Somewhere in the fabric of their stories lay the power to redefine love itself, to forge a connection that transcended their histories. In the shimmering light, fear melded with anticipation. And as Max searched both their faces, it became more than just a moment about him. It was about a shared journey of acceptance, compassion, and perhaps most importantly, the strength to embrace what life threw their way. They stood at a crossroads laden with emotional gravity. What would they choose? Would the whisper of unresolved feelings cloud their judgment, or would they dare to chart a new path forward? This was the moment when the sacred and the profane intertwined, and the future loomed just out of reach, hinting at the incredible possibilities awaiting them. The fate of their shared journey hung in the balance, waiting for the first move to tumble into the depths of the unknown. Would they learn to rewrite their stories together, or would the shadows of doubt extinguish the flickering light of hope? Only time could tell. As the sun dipped lower behind the horizon, casting elongated shadows that danced on the ground, they felt the weight of their choices swirling around them, threads of trust, love, and fear all weaving into their hearts. The question echoed, suspended like a whisper in the wind. What would happen next, when two hearts collided in unexpected harmony? And with that unanswerable question dangling in the air, a world of endless possibilities awaited just beyond the shimmering touch of twilight. What happens when two lost souls collide at the intersection of despair and hope? Picture this. A dog once alone and abandoned spots a girl, tears streaming down her face, crumpled beside the roadside. In that moment, worlds collide. But this isn't just any moment. It's a transformative moment where empathy transcends species and sparks a connection so profound that it could change lives. As Max pawed his way closer to Lily, the cries that choked her throat began to quiet. There's a raw psychological truth here. Every one of us carries the weight of life's burdens: grief, rejection, pain. It's a shared human experience that often leaves us feeling isolated. Yet here was Max, embodying a pure form of connection, not seeking anything in return. How could a dog, an animal perceived so simply at first glance, possess an insight powerful enough to mend broken hearts? Max approached cautiously, tail wagging uncertainly, as if asking for permission to bridge the emotional chasm. Dogs are known for their extraordinary ability to read human emotions. Research shows that they can often sense our moods and react accordingly, allowing them to step into our lives at precisely the right moment. In this case, instinctively driven by compassion, Max approached with a sense of duty to heal. Lily's tear-streaked face looked up as Max pressed his nose against her hand. His warm, gentle presence wrapping around her like a protective cloak. Instantly, her body softened. The stoic walls she had forged to shield her from pain began to dissolve. This wasn't merely a meeting between a girl and a dog. This was an awakening. They both felt it, an unspoken understanding that bridged the gap between their separate worlds. In that brief exchange, something profound shifted. Lily tentatively stroked Max's fur, feeling the texture of life beneath her fingertips. It was therapeutic, reaching deeper than simple affection. It was about connection. It's the same chemical that binds mothers to their children and lovers to each other. That simple act catalyzed a transformation in Lily, a flicker of hope ignited in the pit of her despair. But as they sat together in that vulnerable moment, a deeper realization coursed through the air. Abandonment had shaped them both in unexpected ways. Max was a stray, discarded by someone he learned to love unconditionally. Lily felt similarly forsaken, discarded by friends and family in her moment of need. Each bore their scars, and in interpreting their pain, they began to unravel a deeper truth. Isolation can devour the spirit, but connection breathes life back into the weary soul. The real twist was just beginning. As days melted into weeks, the unlikely pair became inseparable, forging a bond rooted in resilience. Max became her sidekick and her solace, following her on walks through the nearby park, where laughter floated through the air like butterflies. They took their first steps together into a realm untouched by the darkness that clung to their pasts. But this story was destined to weave in and out of other lives, creating a tapestry of unforeseen consequences. As they grew closer, Max began to recognize Lily not as just a girl in distress, but as his newfound purpose. They ventured into the world around them, exploring trails dappled with sunlight and laughter, where each moment felt filled with possibility. The lives of those in their proximity began to shift as well. With every passerby in the park who witnessed their joyful interaction, a ripple effect occurred. Children smiled wider, adults paused to reflect, and a collective energy blossomed, illuminating the mundane. The dynamic between Lily and Max was a silent yet vocal reminder of a truth often forgotten. The healing power of companionship can reverberate through an entire community. Research supports this concept. Studies on social psychology reveal that when one person exhibits kindness or compassion, it spreads like wildfire, igniting a chain reaction of emotional connectivity. It's the same reasoning behind the bystander effect, where witnessing an act of kindness inspires others, leading them to pay it forward. One bright Saturday afternoon, while they were basking in the warmth of the sun, a new figure emerged in this intricate tapestry: Rachel. She was Max's previous owner. Wandering through the park, her heart heavy with unresolved guilt, she had given up Max in a moment of desperation, thinking it was the best decision. But the months without him had turned into a hollow void, a constant reminder of love lost. Rachel affixed her gaze on the pair, a poignant scene unfolding before her. Max, once the embodiment of joy in her life, now radiated happiness that she had longed for but had unknowingly severed. Lily's laughter broke through the static of Rachel's memories, echoing what used to be, a vibrant warmth that she missed with an ache buried deep within her chest. But as Rachel approached, her heart screamed at her to retreat. What right did she have to disrupt the joy they had found together? At that moment, she was a specter of doubt, flitting between regret and hope, driven by a desire to connect, but paralyzed by anxiety. If connection has the power to heal, was she brave enough to reclaim what she once abandoned? Lily, sensing someone's presence, turned around. Her instincts were sharp, a product of the battles she had faced alone. And there stood Rachel, eyes wide, as they met in a charged moment suspended in time, a perfect confluence of past and present. Each woman carried the weight of abandonment, yet here they stood, bound together by a shared love for the same creature. Rachel's voice trembled as she spoke. I just wanted to see him." The unfinished thought hung in the air, raw and vulnerable, pregnant with potential. In that moment, the solidarity of grief echoed through the space between them. Lily felt her heart race, protective instinct surging through her veins. Max was her comfort now. But in her heart, she understood Rachel's struggle. The aroma of unhealed wounds mixed with longing manipulated the air between them. It was a challenging situation, for psychology has repeatedly shown that shared experiences create affinity. But when pain is shared, it often leads to confusion and defensiveness. Max, overhearing their emotional exchange, caught the wave of tension reverberating between the two women. He trotted over, a hair's breadth away from the unconditional love he had become accustomed to. He moved between them, a furry bridge, drawing their attention to him, his instincts guiding him toward unity rather than division. Here lay an interesting psychological insight. Dogs have an innate ability to mediate human conflicts. By simply being themselves, they remind us of the power of connection, demonstrating that love is plentiful, not a zero-sum game. Max was unwittingly mediating a poignant reunion while offering solace to both women, allowing them to coexist rather than compete for his affections. In that moment of wild emotional honesty, both women began to feel their shared reverence for Max. Rachel kneeled down, and as she reached out to him, tears flooded her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt him." Lily watched quietly, a wave of empathy crashing over her. It was as if she could taste Rachel's pain, the bitterness of regret threading through the air like smoke. In understanding the essence of human psychology, she began to comprehend that holding on to anger or resentment only stifled the healing process. "Maybe he could have both of us," Lily offered, the words tumbling out in a rush, bold and audacious. The idea struck a chord with her. Who is she to deny another the opportunity to love in a world so filled with loss? The spark of a new dream began to flicker. Perhaps instead of viewing this as a confrontation, they could embrace this unexpected alliance. Rachel's face softened. It was a question echoing profound vulnerability and an invitation to leap into an unknown landscape together. Lily nodded, her heart beating loudly. A silence enveloped them, thick with understanding and hope sewn together by a shared thread of humanity, love, and desire for connection. It was a risky journey that required trust, but with each passing moment, they felt the weight of shared love stitching them together. In that serendipitous encounter, they discovered the lifeline of resilience that exists within human connection, a profound lesson media reports and scientists have echoed time and again. Love does not divide, it multiplies. And as the days bled into weeks, Max became a symbol of healing, a catalyst for connection and companionship. The trio began to form a family marked by openness and understanding, a space where new beginnings took root. They became a portrait of empathy in action, showcasing the power of community and coexistence. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and there remained uncertainty lurking in the shadows, ready to strike when least expected. One fateful morning, as they ventured into the world together, a sudden storm gathered on the horizon, a tempest of change so powerful it would test their newly forged bonds. While playing in the park, laughter filled the air as Lily tossed a ball, Max bounding after it with uncontainable energy. Rachel observed the joy unfolding before her, yet beneath her smile, fear lingered. Would this fragile connection withstand scrutiny? Would the uncertainties surrounding their lives intertwine in a way that they may not come back from? It was a thought that gnawed at her. One moment could change everything. Just as the sunlight began to dim, ominous clouds rolled in. In the distance, the sound of thunder rumbled, a deep growl urging them toward safety. But it was too late. The skies unleashed a torrential downpour, drenching them before they could take cover. Max, sensing the shift in atmosphere, barked nervously, his instincts screaming that something was amiss. The heavy rain blurred the world around them, indistinguishable and chaotic. Lily, overwhelmed, felt the creeping sensation of panic tightening around her chest. What if they couldn't find their way back in this storm? Rachel squeezed Lily's hand, a grounding force in the chaotic tempest. Rushing through the downpour, the muddy ground beneath their feet became as treacherous as the trials they faced. A flash of lightning cracked above them, a runaway signal of impending danger. The storm mirrored not just the elements, but the emotional turmoil roiling within. In that pivotal moment, each heartbeat became a countdown, an echo of their individual battles against despair. Would they weather the storm? This crucible wouldn't merely test their resolve, it could shape their future. Would the love they had cultivated remain intact? Would they emerge from this deluge unscathed, or would the fragile connections unravel, dragging them into the vortex of pain once more? Caught in the tempest, everything felt heightened. The wind pushed against them, the sound of chaos louder than their heartbeats. They darted toward a nearby building, the sanctuary of an old cafe standing steadfast against the storm. As they fumbled through the door, suffocated by the thunder's roar, they were met by a warmth that enveloped their chilled bones. Inside, patrons sheltered from the rain, sipping coffee, and discussing life's fleeting whims. In a moment of sudden clarity, the connection between the trio ignited a fresh resolve. They would face this storm together, just as they had faced their past. The wounding and the healing would come as a collective force. Max bounded toward a group of children, radiating joy, reflecting the hope that staved off despair. Lily and Rachel looked at each other, hearts synchronized, their lives entwined in this unexpected journey. They had each faced abandonment, and now they had found solace in one another. But the storm wouldn't relent. It raged on outside, an indelible reminder of life's unpredictability. Within the safety of the cafe, an unspoken promise danced between them. They had not only found strength in each other, but discovered the resilience of love, proven to withstand the most formidable of tempests. And as they sat together in a small cafe tucked away from chaos, a shared understanding settled over them. A powerful realization that whatever storms came their way, they would face them like warriors, steadfast and unyielding, united in unwavering love. This was not just a reprieve from the rain. It was a testament to their journey, a promise that no storm, no matter how fierce, could extinguish the flame of connection they had first ignited beside the road. Days turned into a narrative rich with healing, connection, and the unpredictability of life, revealing the intuition that thrives when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. They were on the edge of something magnificent, waiting to unfold. What lay ahead in their journey was still unseen, yet brimming with the possibility of transformation. As the storm raged on, their laughter mingled with the droplets on the window, resounding proof that love would always emerge from the depths, stronger than ever. Would they navigate their lives together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the world threw their way? Only time would tell. And as thunder cracked above, the sun began to break through the clouds, casting rays of light upon them, a harbinger of hope, illuminating the path ahead in ways they could not yet imagine. What would you do if you were lost, feeling abandoned and alone, only to discover that help comes in the most unexpected form? A dog, with its unyielding loyalty and boundless love, suddenly becomes the lifeline to a shattered heart. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a pivotal moment for both a girl named Lily and a dog named Max, whose lives would change in ways no one could foresee. As we dive deeper into their story, imagine the quiet desperation in Lily's heart as she sat on that lonesome patch of gravel, tears streaming down her face. At just 10 years old, she navigated the choppy waters of childhood abandonment and neglect. The chaos of her home life left her yearning for connection, for comfort, anything to fill the void that threatened to swallow her whole. Her sobs merged with the rhythmic sound of the wind, echoing her loneliness into the ether. The world around her seemed to blur, her pain becoming her only reality. And then came Max, a scruffy dog with a soulful bays, scrapped from the streets and discarded by the very humans tasked with loving him. But unlike those who had once abandoned him, Max's instincts remained intact. He felt urgency in Lily's cries, an electric pull, drawing him toward her like a moth to a flame. The bond they were about to forge was intrinsic and primal, a silent language that both understood, one that transcended words and social conditioning. In psychology, we often talk about the phenomenon of emotional contagion, the idea that emotions can spread between individuals, like a silent symphony resonating in their hearts. Max approached Lily cautiously, each step laden with empathy. As he nestled his head into her lap, something shifted. Able to mirror her pain, he also offered the promise of healing. It was a surprising juxtaposition, a creature once abandoned, found his purpose in comforting another lost soul. This phenomenon is not uncommon in the animal kingdom. Dogs have this innate ability to sense human emotions, a gift honed through generations of companionship with us. Studies suggest they can distinguish human emotional states by reading our facial expressions, an insight that drives their instinctual response. Just imagine the miracle of connection that emerged in that moment. A dog understanding the depths of despair and extending a paw of comfort. But Max's role in Lily's life was destined to expand far beyond that initial encounter. Days turned into weeks, and their bond deepened. Max became a loyal companion, always by her side. Together they roamed their small town, often running through the sprawling fields just outside, where laughter painted the skies brighter than the sun ever could. The more they ventured together, the more they carved a pathway of healing. Yet lurking beneath the surface of their newfound happiness was a reality waiting to surface. With every joy, there are challenges that come creeping in like shadows, ready to nip at the heels of confidence and peace. Lily's home life, still a tempest of neglect, remained unchanged, often causing her spirit to sag under the weight of rejection. Yet Max, the four-legged guardian, never wavered. His ceaseless love provided the buoyancy she needed to stay afloat, a reminder that she was not alone. Months sped past like autumn leaves in the wind. But on one crisp day, just like any other, a visceral storm was brewing where hope and despair would collide once more. As Lily and Max made their way to their favorite park, a neighborhood flared with life. Families played, children laughed, and birds flitted about with careless abandon. A stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Lily. It was on this bright day that she saw Rachel, a woman known in the neighborhood as Max's former owner. She wielded her faithful dog like a badge of honor, while people whispered of her decision to abandon him. Lily watched as Rachel meandered through the throng, guilt flickering in her eyes like a candle under a smothering breeze, sorrow lingering in every glance she cast toward Max. To Lily, Rachel was a stranger, but she was also a symbol of the very abandonment that she feared. There was a moment when their eyes met, and a flash of recognition ignited between them. In a world governed by unspoken rules of belonging and rejection, guilt and regret clashed, painting their unsuspecting hearts with shades of connection that neither had anticipated. But then, almost instinctively, Rachel's gaze flitted away, and her posture hardened as if she could erase her presence from Lily's memory. What if realizing her past mistake would shatter Lily's peaceful illusion? Rachel's struggle simmered beneath the surface. Was she brave enough to confront the pain she'd caused? And more importantly, was she ready to take responsibility for her decisions? As if stirred by an unseen thread, Lily couldn't help but stand taller, emboldened by Max's unwavering loyalty. Here he was, a living testament to love. She could feel his warmth radiating through her fingertips, soothing her fears. That connection, unshakable, palpable, reminded her of who she was growing into. Someone worthy of love, despite the multitudes of hurt she had endured. In a bold moment that surprised even herself, she let out a breath and said without thinking, "Max deserves to be loved, Rachel." Her voice held the weight of understanding, a bridge built from common ties, forged in desperation and hope. Rachel froze for an eternal heartbeat, the words hanging in the air like a fragile promise. "I thought I was doing what was best at the time," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The tension in her shoulders gave way for just a moment, the heaviness of her past, grappling with the reality of her choices. What followed was an extraordinary acknowledgement, an unfiltered raw honesty that spiraled into a conversation laden with emotion. They spoke of loss, guilt, and the desire for redemption. Rachel confessed her heartbreak over the choice she made, and Lily revealed her own battles with feelings of abandonment and loneliness. The bond they shared forged in a crucible of raw humanity. In that moment, a simple dog emerged as the catalyst for healing, guiding two wounded souls toward revitalization. It's remarkable how vulnerability can dissolve barriers. Recent studies in social psychology corroborate this, showing that sharing feelings of distress forms a strong emotional connection. And in their shared confessions, they began to understand that their journeys were not so different. But just as camaraderie blossomed, a familiar darkness loomed. the looming questions of loyalty and belonging wrapped around their hearts like cold chains, ready to pull them back into their respective fears. Could Max exist within this new narrative of forgiveness? Would Rachel be a rightful part of his world again? Max, always the intuitive angel, picked up on the swirling emotions around him. As Rachel crouched down, he tilted his head, sensing the possibility of a healing bond unfurling. Taking the leap, she held out her hand, slowly, cautiously. Max stepped forward, nose meeting palm. A gentle acceptance, an acknowledgement of the love that had once existed. That unconditional love fueled an intriguing revelation, sparking a newfound unity. In their hearts, they understood that only through forgiveness could they break free from the shackles of their past. Lily, emboldened by compassion, offered Rachel a chance to reclaim the love that had once slipped through her fingers. "Maybe we can share him," Lily proposed, as she watched the electrodes of possibility flash within Rachel. It was an unexpected twist in their narrative, 3 lives intertwining harmoniously to heal past wounds. Max, a fusion of friendship and loyalty, represented the anchor that would bind them together. This wasn't merely a story of a girl saving a dog. It had become an intricate web of healing, murky waters now infused with the light of shared grace. The emotional tapestry revealed that connection can rise from the ashes of pain. They were defining their narrative, navigating uncharted terrain where love transcended loss. But fate, like a simmering storm cloud, didn't leave them untested. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the sky with colors like a freshly spilled palette, the trio ventured together when the shadows began to lengthen. Just then, a whisper of a chill danced through the air, a reminder that while they were moving forward, their past was never too far behind. Little did they know, lurking within the shadows was the echo of a decision made in haste. A decision that rattled the walls of their newly formed bond. Rachel's ex-boyfriend, a figure from her past, emerged unexpectedly. Towering and imposing, he brought within a storm of chaos that threatened to unravel the fragile connection they had begun to stitch together. He barked, rage spilling forth like a thunderstorm. "You gave that dog up." Each word felt like weighted stones thrown at the trio, landing heavily on their newfound unity. Max, sensing the sudden shift in atmosphere, instinctively stepped protectively in front of Lily and Rachel. The courage radiating off him illustrated the profound lessons learned through love and loyalty. In that moment, they stood together, 3 souls entwined in a single purpose, ready to confront the turbulence head-on. As tension coiled around them, the question pulsed through the air. Could they stand together, unyielding against the darkness that loomed? The edge of uncertainty was filled with fear and doubt. Would their bond be strong enough to withstand the storm? Or would old wounds re-emerge, pulling them back into despair? And as the wind howled and emotions crackled with electricity, a bold new chapter was on the horizon. One thing was certain: the power of love, forgiveness, and connection would be tested. And just like that, a battle of hearts was set against the backdrop of an ever-unfolding story. A story of resilience and transformative love, echoing into the night. As we step into the unknown with them, we hold our breath, enveloped in anticipation, ready to see where this intertwining path will lead. Will they navigate the chaos? Will the threads of past choices weave them into a new tapestry of unity? Only time will tell as the storm rumbles on, heralding a shift that may just redefine what it means to truly be a family. With the night carrying the weight of their unspoken promises, their journey has only just begun. What if a moment of vulnerability, an innocent display of tears, could spark an unexpected change, not just for a young girl, but for an entire community? This is precisely what transpired when Max, a scruffy little mutt with a heart of gold, crossed paths with Lily, a girl drowning in sorrow. Their fates were entangled that fateful day, and as we pick up their story, the world trembles at the brink of transformation. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and pink, a familiar weight loomed in Lily's chest. The bittersweet light mirrored her fragile spirit, a reflection of hopes harbored and dashed. She had found solace in Max, who had become her steadfast companion, standing by her side through the tempest of her childhood. The raw, unfiltered bond between them represented something more profound, a resurrection of purpose amidst the ashes of despair. Yet amid this flickering warmth, a shadow loomed. Their relationship caught on the cusp of scrutiny as rumors spread through the neighborhood. Rachel, Max's previous owner, had expressed an interest in reuniting with her dog, igniting a flurry of emotions that ricocheted through Lily's heart. The bravado of companionship was now bathed in uncertainty. What if Rachel reclaimed Max? Would he choose her over Lily? With each passing day, the whispers pierced the air. Neighbors watched the unlikely duo traversing the streets side by side with wary eyes. They questioned the legitimacy of their bond, raising eyebrows over what they perceived as an incongruity. An abandoned girl nurturing a stray dog. Lily often felt their incredulous stares burning into her skin. She braved it, holding Max tighter, their silent understanding acting as armor against their judgment. Psychology teaches us that the fear of exclusion is hardwired into our beings. Lurking beneath all those gazes was a collective unease, a reflection of human inclination to fit into societal molds. But here was Lily, an anomaly forging her narrative against the backdrop of those who aimed to categorize her. There was a power in their bond, and deep down, she internalized that this connection fortified her sense of identity, allowing her to exist unapologetically as she was. Yet the crescendo of anxiety built with each passing day. Perhaps it was inevitable. The moment Rachel officially announced she wanted Max back arrived with all the subtlety of a thunderclap. It was Saturday morning when Lily was out walking Max, relishing the crisp air and the familiar dance of leaves swirling around them in a quiet symphony of autumn. Rachel appeared poised against the backdrop of an unyielding blue sky, and all of Lily's world went gray. Her figure cut into Lily's thoughts with the precision of a knife. "You know he's mine. I've come to take him home," Rachel challenged, her voice tinged with a blend of authority and a tinge of regret. Lily's heart sank beneath the weight of those words, fear threatening to drown her spirit. Suddenly, her unsteady thoughts whirled frantically. Would Max leave? Would he choose Rachel? The chains of uncertainty clamped tightly around her soul as she fought the rising tide of panic. Just then, Max, sensing the change in atmosphere, stood frozen at Lily's side, his small body rigid with uncertainty. He gazed back and forth between them, breathing in the tension that hung thick like a summer storm. They, decidedly, were not just mute observers in this unfolding drama. They were players in a vulnerable dance of devotion. "To him, a leash attached to you is meaningless," Lily retorted with fierce determination, her voice breaking free from the confines of fear. It was a moment of clarity. The words hung in the air like incense, and as they breathed life into her conviction, they declared the essence of their bond, indelible and profound. Just then, Max lunged forward, as if he sensed the emotional currents swirling around him. He nuzzled into Lily's leg, his way of unconsciously choosing her. Had he absorbed her unarticulated fears? This unspoken choice sealed the chasm of doubt that had threatened to swallow them both whole. But Rachel, her heart painted in hues of regret, stepped back. Lily's resilience ignited something in her, a flicker of compassion that had long been extinguished. "I didn't mean to uproot something beautiful," she whispered, her voice trembling. In that moment, we saw two broken souls converge. Each carried the weight of regret, wrapped in invisible chains from their past. The social psychology concept of mere exposure effect began to reveal itself. The more they were confronted with their unhealed wounds, the more empathy would swirl through the air between them, creating the potential for healing. Lily took a breath, eyes shimmering like sunlight on rippling waters. She proposed, her voice barely above a whisper, but laden with hope. The notion of sharing Max flowed forth, a creative solution infused with possibility and acceptance. To her surprise, Rachel looked intrigued. The hint of uncertainty in her voice hinted at an unexpected transformation stirring within her. Max, now a bridge, linked their despair and desire for redemption, a living testament that love is often a collaborative endeavor, rather than a game of singular possession. Days turned into weeks, and the delicate arrangement blossomed. As their bond grew, the three navigated the complexities of their new life together, establishing a rhythm that allowed them to flourish. Max quickly became a shared joy, consolidating the essence of love and compassion, where two voids found solace in each other. In psychology, we understand that resilience is often cultivated through relationships. That summer, Lily, Rachel, and Max forged memories atop the cascading waves of laughter that filled the air, playing fetch, late-night stargazing, and sharing secrets beneath the golden glow of fireflies. Every shared moment depleted the walls that had once separated them, allowing for healing to flourish amid the scars that remained. But beneath the boundless joy, challenges emerged, doubts whispered, and insecurities gnawed at the edges of their newfound dynamic. It was inevitable. Human emotion is rife with complexities and contradictions. Although they built a coalition fueled by yearning for acceptance, it didn't eliminate the fears that lived within them. One evening, as dusk wrapped the world in a shroud of serenity, Lily and Rachel sat next to each other on a park bench, watching Max chase after a butterfly. But Lily had something weighing on her mind. She asked, her voice barely checking the tremor of uncertainty. Rachel, initially taken aback, let the question hang in the air. "Every time I look at him," she confessed, her tone laced with honesty, "I'm terrified I'll lose him again." Her admission, wrapped in vulnerability, morphed their fears into a common thread, a shared understanding of vulnerability that flooded the space between them. Suddenly, without thinking, Lily reached out and held Rachel's hand, a gesture of solidarity that signified a bridge spanning their unhealed pasts. The sincerity emanating from her words enveloped them, casting away the specters of uncertainty that loitered at the edges of understanding. As they shared fleeting glances and a tentative smile, Max, buoyed by the spirit of the moment, bounded back to them, a bundle of joy and warmth. He wagged his tail, shaking loose the remnants of burden from their hearts. In his simple canine wisdom, he understood that the heart of the matter didn't lie solely in choices made, but in the willingness to confront the consequences of those choices together. But this newfound serenity didn't freeze time. Complications still loomed in the background. The summer slowly melted into autumn, and reality began its intricate dance around them. Rachel's connection with Max rekindled the embers of nostalgia, forcing her to confront her past. She wanted to improve, but her shadow crept menacingly, raising doubts that flickered in hidden corners of her heart. Would she falter again? Would she lead Lily to believe she could trust so completely? Amid this turmoil, an unexpected encounter unfolded, a challenge they had never anticipated. One afternoon, as they enjoyed their usual routine in the park, an enraged man approached them, eyes full of anguish. He shouted, jerking his finger toward Max as he barreled forward. The man's fury reverberated throughout the park, halting laughter and sending ripples of fear coursing through the air. The confrontation turned into chaos, a scene painted in shades of confusion and alarm. Max instinctively darted behind Lily and Rachel, seeking refuge in their combined strength. The man's accusation clung tightly to the atmosphere, threatening to pull them into a storm they had not anticipated. The shared joy and camaraderie built between them suddenly felt tenuous, suspended on a precipice. But empowered by their journey, Lily stepped forward, her pulse racing wildly. "He's not a possession." The fire in her voice surprised her, and she could feel a wave of courage dance through her veins. The man's eyes widened, taken aback by the intensity emanating from her. Rachel joined in, heart racing. "Leave him alone." The moment was electric, their united stand juxtaposing the man's rage like two shields locked together against a common adversary. Could they build a sanctuary against the harsh realities threatening to tear them apart? As words flew like arrows, the truth emerged. The complexities of love, loyalty, and belonging were tangled up in the spaces of abandonment and heartache. This man was merely a reflection of Rachel's earlier struggles, echoing the unresolved questions of her own heart. Could she truly reclaim the love she had forsaken? And then, as they stood together, fingers intertwined, hearts aligned, Max lifted his head, unleashing a bark. It was a commanding presence that drew attention and shifted the atmosphere. In homage to their bond, he looked to Rachel and then to Lily, anchoring their determination for a resolution. But what followed was unexpected. As the man approached, his face contorted with desperation, another figure emerged from the shadows. An officer arrived just in time, having overheard the commotion escalating. He quickly grasped the situation unfolding, instinctively knowing there was more to the story that needed untangling. The officer asked, meticulously surveying the situation and sensing the tension hanging palpably in the air. Lily felt a rush of relief at the sight of law enforcement. Perhaps there might be justice for Max, a resolution that recognized their bond and the fear-driven manipulation at play. The officer was immediately empathetic, asking pointed questions that peeled back layers of confusion. As the man yelled louder, defeat began to unfurl around him. In the end, he stumbled over his own contradictions, revealing the truth of abandonment that colored his narrative. It was a paradox that exposed the fragility of his claim. Relieved yet anxious, Lily watched as the officer assessed the situation, slowly formulating a response built on compassion. It seems like the true question at hand is not just ownership but what's best for the dog, he concluded, capturing the essence of the moment. It was a verdict born from collective understanding, where all parties felt the reverberations of lost love. Finally, the pieces began to fall into place, amid uncertainty. Both Lily and Rachel had transformed their regrets into resolute commitments. They rallied behind Max, willing to face any storm, revealing strength that now radiated from their hearts. Though everything threatened to collapse, the strength of their love widened, like a bridge built to withstand even the strongest currents. In that moment, it became clear that this connection was not merely tethered by circumstance or ownership, but connected in the truest sense of family, the intertwining threads of love and forgiveness, creating a refuge built upon shared hardship. The man's hollow demands faded under the force of their unity, restoring the essence of what it means to truly belong. And as they walked away, hand in hand with Max prancing joyfully between them, something remarkable echoed in the silence of the night. Each footstep resonated with purpose, invigorated by the warmth of companionship, each heartbeat a testament to the resilience born of love. What they discovered was profound. Family is not solely defined by blood ties or legal ownership. It's built through shared struggles, compassion, and the relentless pursuit of connection, despite the wounds of the past. The storm had gathered, but it had transformed into something entirely new, a celebration of the strength their hearts had forged. As they stood at the crossroads of uncertainty and hope, a new chapter unfurled, one that promised to reshape the human experience of belonging. And in a world fraught with doubt, they took their first steps forward, knowing they would face every challenge together. And as the horizon opened before them, they marched into the future, daring to dream and determined to create a new story bound forever by love, an enormous heart shaped by vulnerability, collaboration, and above all, understanding. In the heart of this journey, the message echoes clear. Sometimes unexpected connections can emerge amidst our struggles, lighting the path toward belonging, healing, and ultimately leading us back home.